Our first stop is a Tennessee town that was once part of a 19th century utopian society. Rugby sits just below Big South National Park, so it's the scenery that brings some people there. However, mostly it's to relive the story of an English village that was founded in rugged northern Tennessee.
It's really an amazing sight to see when you can drive up this road and you're almost literally taken back to the 1880s and 90s when rugby first started.
Rugby's a great retreat for people who want to come enjoy its pristine historic architecture and perhaps relive the story of an Englishman named Thomas Hughes and his almost perfect utopian society. Hughes was a noted British author who envisioned a community of cooperative enterprise and cultured lifestyle, all free of the rigid class distinctions of 19th century Britain. Back then, the eldest sons of landed gentry inherited everything. Hughes believed the less favored younger sons could build a successful community of their own through farming. By 1884, Rugby had attracted about 300 young dreamers, along with an English agriculturalist to train them. One problem, though, the rugged land itself.
Thomas Hughes had this idea that they were going to come here and all be these kind of gentleman farmers in the area, and he brings them from, England without really knowing how to farm, and then brings them to an area that isn't the great place to try and have a farm at. Yeah, we had Tabard Inn was actually one of the largest structures in town. There's a picture of it there.
That's resident historian Zachary Langley, who bridges the gap between the old and new Rugby. Here in the recently built visitor center, there's a mural that depicts Rugby in its heyday. Complete with over 65 Victorian buildings, several of which were taverns, where the so-called gentleman farmers spent their evenings.
It was really almost an oxymoron in a way, because it's kind of hard to be a farmer and have a successful farm, and then be able to just kind of kick back and live like you were used to in England as a gentleman over there.
Add to that a typhoid epidemic, financial problems, fires, and severe winters, and you can understand why by 1900 most of the colonists had moved away. And it didn't help that, in truth, the fervent founder only spent a couple of months a year here away from England.
Some folks historically have actually contributed that to probably one of the issues that caused rugby's failure in the end, is that, the person who was really the driving energy behind it didn't actually spend a whole lot of time here.
But while rugby declined, it never was deserted.
One of the neat things about this is that unofficially you have groups who are working to preserve and care for rugby and its structures going all the way back to the 19-teens. And so that's a lot of who remains here, are families and children of these families, as few as there are that allow us to actually have what we have of rugby today, going all the way back over 100 years ago.
Over a century later, Zach heads up historic rugby. The care of 18 original buildings, some faithful reconstructions, and the vacation homes of new settlers. Meanwhile, visitors to historic Rugby can immerse themselves in the charm and history of places, like the town library. Wow, this is cool. Pretty much intact since it was built in 1882. It's mesmerizing to scan the now rare collections of English books and local periodicals. And it's close to the original home of Thomas Hughes himself. It's adorned with antiques, some original, that faithfully reflect how the founder spent his not-so-numerous days here. Rugby has a handful of cozy choices for overnight visits. The favorite, perhaps, is the old Newberry House, with Victorian furnishings that are true to its 19th century origins. Today, there's a suite downstairs and 5 rooms upstairs, one of which, like Thomas Hughes' house, has been the source of numerous ghostly noises and strange events.
Well, we had 2 different cases where all the lights were off when we left, But one time at Pioneer and then another time here at Percy, you come back at 11 o'clock, there's lights on inside the house, but there's nobody, all the doors are locked, nobody's been in there, there's no evidence of it. So we get all sorts of strange little things like that happening.
If you come here for a weekend getaway, chances are you won't encounter a ghost from Rugby's romantic past. Back when it was briefly the promised land for disregarded sons of English gentry. However, if you should encounter the ghost of Thomas Hughes, tell him he should have come here more often.
It's not just history that's here, there's natural beauty as well. There's kind of that quiet, pristine, almost serenity you get when you come into Rugby as well to appreciate.